10 random magic cards rated day 133. Welcome to Tuesday, everyone. First card of the day is going to be Supernatural Stamina from Amonkhet over here. A single black mana for an instant. Until end of turn, target creature gets +2/+0 and gains. When this creature dies, return to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. Maybe the most baseline version of this effect that you can get. Black gets a lot of cards like this, so especially I feel like there was a glut of sets a few years ago where black just always got this effect at 1 mana. We actually have better versions of this in standard right now. There's one that's basically exactly this card, but it also returns the creature if it goes into exile, which is way amazingly better. So all in all, I'm going to give stamina like a 3.9 here. I don't think it's completely unplayable. Hello, Ziggy. He's down here. But I don't think it's completely unplayable. I just think there's better versions of the effect right now. But moving on to Ancestor's Aid from Lost Caverns. 2 mana, 1 on a red for an instant. A creature gets +2/+0 and gains first strike till end of turn. You also create a treasure token. So just a whole day of +2/+0 stuff, I guess. I will say, not an amazing combat trick, although it can be useful from time to time. First strike is always underrated. It's the treasure token that's good about this. A combat trick that gives you a treasure token, gives you ramp, is kind of a neat idea, but not every deck is going to be like, oh, I'm an aggro deck that wants to ramp. You know what I mean? It's not like super common. So I don't know. It's kind of like pick which one you want. You want a ramp spell or do you want because this is a bad ramp spell. So if you want a ramp spell, pick a better ramp spell. It's also a bad, combat trick for aggressive decks. So if you want a good one, pick like Sure Strike or something, which gives the creature +3/+0 in first strike and basically makes it completely blow through anything that tries to block it. You know what I mean? So again, no matter which kind of spell you want, pump spell, ramp spell, you have better options. And I'm just not sure how many decks sort of intersect enough to want to pay extra for either effect, to have access to both, right? So 8 is a cool looking card. It's just not many decks are going to be able to actually leverage this well. So I'll give it a 3.4. It's not terrible. Next is Cabaret Courtyard. I'm not sure that we've done these yet. I feel like we had to have at this point, but I'm not sure we have. These are the New Capenna lands, what we all called them, New Capenna fetches. When this one enters the battlefield, you sack it, and when you do, you search your library for a basic mountain, forest, or plains, put it on field tapped, shuffle up, and gain a life. So a fetch land that puts the thing into play tapped like Evolving Wilds or something, but in this case also gains you a life. And so that's good for certain decks, right? Note that it searches for basics, so you can't do like fun fetch land tricks with these, like going and getting a dual land. But, these were still played for a while, if only because they put themselves into your yard in a format where we had Aftermath Analyst and Splendid Reclamation and all kinds of effects that want lands in the graveyard. So these did see some play for a while. I'm not sure how much play they really see in like casual Commander, but, you can make a case for them. I'll say that. You could argue for these cards, but all in all, I'm going to give these lands in general a 5. I'm going to give them the same as a basic land because they go and get a basic land. But next is Orcish Veteran from Fallen Empires. This is probably the art that I know the most. These are all arts I'm familiar with. This is 3 mana, 2 and a red for an orc that is a 2/2. So 3 mana, 2/2 that cannot be assigned to block any white creature power greater than 1 for some reason. But you can also pay 1 red mana and give this first strike until end of turn. So it is technically better than a Grey Ogre because you can give it first strike. Otherwise, it would just be a 3 mana 2/2 with a downside. So I guess it's bad against white weenie is the idea back in the day. If you're doing red aggro versus white aggro, the classic aggro matchup, that this is just kind of not good in that match. But it's technically good everywhere else, but it's not even good everywhere else. 3 mana for a 2/2, it's garbage. That's Fallen Empires, man. I love it to death, but when you hit a bad card, it's bad. At least you get to look at some cool Quentin Hoover art here. We all miss Quentin Hoover, but I'm going to give this like it's really bad. Basically actively bad. So I'm going to give it a 1.1, something like that. We'll move on to Elves of Deep Shadow. Nice. From the Dark, that Jesper Meifers art over here. This is a single black mana for a 1/1 Elves. You can tap it for a black mana, but it does a damage to you. So it's Llanowar Elves, but it taps for black and pings. That's the whole card. I had never seen the Secret Lair drop one before. It's kind of cool, but nothing will ever be as cool as, Goth Lady, Goth Elf It's everyone's favorite. Still costs like $14 for this card, which is wild. But hell, the fact that it's $5 for one from Ravnica is nuts. The cheapest one you can get is either the one from the list or the one from Dual Decks. And even that'll cost you $1. So card does need some more reprints, but it's a good one, man. You know, Lawn of War Elves is one of the best cards ever printed. And when it can give you, you know, black mana for your Golgari deck, that's in some ways even better, you know. But I'm going to give Elves of Deep Shadow. Oh, it's actually tough. She's looking at me too. She's like, come on, give me a good score. And you deserve a good score. I'm going to give you one. I'm not sure what we gave Lawn of War Elves when we did it. I'm pretty sure we've already done it. But it would have to be like, you know, like an 8. It's like Birds of Paradise, like a 9. Lawn of War Elves is an 8. So I will put an 8 on Elves of Deep Shadow as well. I think Elves gets an 8. Just any 1 mana creature that ramps a mana is always good. Basically, no matter what. But we'll move to Ancestral Tribute here. This is originally printed in Odyssey and only printed in Odyssey. This is 7 mana, 5 and 2 white for a sorcery. You gain 2 life for each card in your graveyard. And you can flash it back for a ridiculous sum, 12 mana, 9 and 3 white, to flash this back. This costs way too much mana. This costs a ridiculous amount of mana to not affect the board state or draw any cards or whatever, you know, like 7 mana. Okay, so I've got 15 cards in my yard. I gain 30 life. It seems cool. I have 8 cards in my yard against 16. That's okay. We're kind of getting not as good now. This card's kind of bad. I'm just going to throw that out here. 12 mana. Why is it 12 mana to flash it back? I guess that a control deck back, there was an era of Magic. I don't think so anymore, but there was an era of Magic where you could argue a control deck could leverage this. But I just think that if control is going to spend 7 and 12 mana on cards, they'll spend that mana on cards that win the game. This, you could, I guess that once you put the game out of reach, right, you gain a bunch of life and your opponent fights back. And then once you have 12 mana, you gain even more, right? At that point, because you played a few more turns, you put more cards in your yard. And then they just scoop. I imagine it could force a scoop or something, but altogether, it's just pretty bad. I'm going to give this card a 2.6. And a lot of that just comes from the novelty of it. You know what I mean? Kiora, the Crashing Wave. I am very nervous about you, Ziggy. You are making moves like you're going to jump onto my shoulder with your claws out. And I don't want you to do that. I'm just letting you know. We're best friends. And you shouldn't do that to your best friend. And I know you at this point. 10 years almost together, bud. I know your tricks. I know what you're going to do. This is Kiora over here, by the way. It was originally printed in Born of the Gods. It's still a couple of bucks to grab this card. 4 mana, 2, a green, and a blue for a 2/2 Kiora. 4 mana for a 2 loyalty planeswalker. For +1, until your next turn, prevent all damage that would be dealt to and dealt by target opponent or target permanent an opponent controls. Okay. -1, draw a card. You may play an additional land this turn. Cool. -5, you get an emblem with, at the beginning of your end step, put a 9/9 blue Kraken creature token onto the battlefield. So, yeah, you can't even doubling season and get the ultimate here. But I guess, with proliferate and stuff, it wouldn't take too long to get to the ultimate. So that's pretty good. The +1 is just kind of okay. Really it's just prevent the damage a creature that your opponent controls would deal to anything, you, Kiora, whatever. So that's a decent +1. It's okay. The -1's really good, but you only get to use it a couple of times. But it is pretty good. Overall, though, it's a solid Planeswalker. Despite the really low starting loyalty for the mana cost, I think it's a pretty solid Planeswalker. I'm going to give this a 5. I'm just going to throw a 5 at it. I think that that's probably right. I don't think that it stands out necessarily, but I also don't think that it's necessarily bad at all. And it doesn't need special synergies or anything to be decent. It's just kind of good in a vacuum. So I like that about it too. But we'll move on to Baneblade Scoundrel over here. This is 4 mana, 3 and a black for a 4/3 human rogue werewolf from Innistrad Midnight Hunt. When it becomes block, each creature blocking it gets -1/-1 till end of turn. That's flanking right there, baby. It's also got Daybound. So if a player casts no spells during their own turn, it becomes night next turn, and then this will become Baneclaw Marauder, a 5/4, with the same whenever it becomes blocked ability, the flanking ability. And whenever a creature blocking Baneclaw Marauder dies, that creature's controller loses a life. Okay. drafty, way too wordy for what it actually does. Just altogether super annoying. I really don't. I think, first of all, that a 4 mana, 4 power creature in draft that has not just flanking, but a better version of flanking in a lot of ways. I think flanking may have been for each creature assigned to block it beyond the first, but no. It's just whenever it's a creature is assigned to block it. Yeah. Okay. So it just is flanking. It just is flanking. So, but a 4 mana 4/3 flanker with extra, gravy on it, like it gets bigger and has an extra line of text later in the game. That seems good, but I cannot stand Daybound. One of my least, like Day Night is just one of my most hated abilities in the history of Magic. So I don't know, man. I've spent too long on you. You're just a draft card anyway. So like 2.4. Next is Intrepid Hero from Urza's Saga. This is another one. I was just talking about this yesterday where like, I know this Urza's Saga art. I don't really know the 7th edition art, but the 7th edition foil art looks so cool. It's like $40 to buy this card, by the way, if you want the foil black bordered one from 7th edition. 3 mana, 2 and a white for a 1/1 soldier. Tap to destroy target creature, power 4 or greater. I remember you. I just don't really remember. I don't even really remember the Saga art that well, but I remember this. I remember this art over here. Yeah, just an all-time grade, man. There's a reason that this card is still like a little over $1 to order almost no matter which one you want. The Magic 2013 one can be bought for a little less. But yeah, this is a fantastic Magic card. Tap to destroy a big guy. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Still great, right? So I feel like we should see this on more Commander tables. Just what a card. If nothing else, more cubes. This is a really, really cubable card in my opinion. But if nothing else, dude, play this in Commander. Tap to destroy most people's commanders. Ask the audience. Haven't asked the audience yet this week. What do you guys think about Intrepid Hero? What's your score here? I'm going to give Hero. I'm going to give Hero a 6.8. More than solid, I think, for a Magic card. That's a good one. Next is Durger Nemesis. This is from Dragons of Tarkir. This is 6 mana, 5 and a blue for a 6/5 Serpent with Defender and Megamorph 7. So you cast it face down as a 2/2 for 3 mana. Turn it face up anytime for the Megamorph cost, and it gets a +1/+1 counter. You see, it's not normal morph, it's Megamorph. That's bad. This is a really bad card. 1.2. Next is Canyon Wildcat. This is 1 and a red for a 2/1 cat with Mountain Walk. Originally printed in Tempest. I really remember this card, man. This was actually also aggro playable. The other day, or was it earlier today, actually? I'm getting my lines crossed. We looked at I think it was today, we looked at the 3 mana 2/2 Goblin with like Mountain Walk. That's all it did, That was yesterday. And I had to say like, oh, that card might actually be okay in like old school, it's sideboard for the mirror match. Now this is the sideboard for the mirror match. This is only 2 mana for a 2-power guy with Mountain Walk, and it did see a little bit of play. So I'm gonna give Canyon Wildcat. What do you think? Like a 3.2? Sure. 3.2 is probably slightly too high, but I love this card. I remember it fondly. Next and finally is Deceptive Landscape from Modern Horizons 3. This is a land that taps for a colorless and comes into play untapped. You can tap and sacrifice it to search your library for a basic plain, swamp, or forest, put it into play, tap, shuffle. And it cycles for white, black, green. So Abzan to cycle it. It's okay. What's wrong with that? So an Evolving Wilds that taps for mana, which is already pretty good. An Evolving Wilds that taps for mana and also cycles. Sign me up. That's a 5. That's a 5 all day. That's a pretty good Magic card. I'm totally serious. I was not necessarily aware this existed. Also, it looks cool. This Mirage sort of art I love. But anyway, that is it for today. Ziggy is here. You may notice. But I and he probably will see you tomorrow morning. When you're here, I just can't. You're the star of the show. You take my whole shine from me, buddy. And you know what? That's all right with me. I love you all. Bye.